Where are you fellas from? Uranus. Hello to my water signs, Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces. Welcome to the Leo new moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising sign listed below. Hello Cancer rising, welcome to your horoscope for the new moon in Leo happening on August the 16th at 7:38 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So I want you to close your eyes. Think about your talents. Think about your access to cash. Think about your values. And be really proud of yourself like a beautiful lion about what you can achieve when you put your mind to it. With all of that in mind, let's find that little seed and let's plant it on this new moon together for you, Cancer rising. In Leo, we think about your second house, which is all of that stuff that I just said. As far as you yourself, what you can do, what you can bring to the table. I mean, that goes to show you how when you're on a roll, you're on a roll. You can be so vibrant and so magnetic and so gorgeous when it comes to earning a buck, showing up, showing us your talent. I can imagine that sometimes when things are not so great in the internal workings, that might feel inaccessible to you. But this is what a new moon is for. You won't see it in the sky. We have to use our instinct. And so we're going to do that, Cancer rising, with this incantation. You've got it, babe. Whatever you want, you got it. You can do this. Now, there's a couple of different aspects that I wanted to talk to you about. I do actually want to just lightly mention that if I release these in time on the 13th, on Sunday, the 13th of August, we'll be having a little moment with Venus and the Sun in exact conjunction. It's called a cazimi, according to Chani Nicholas, who's one of my favorite astrologers. And in that moment, there's sort of like the sun warms Venus up and there's an extra glow. And there's also a transition between Venus being a night star and a morning star too. It's a lovely moment where they sort of cross paths. And when I think of Venus, I think of the Empress in the tarot. You can see there's the little glyph for Venus right there on her chaise lounge. I think of someone who has access to everything they could possibly desire, the nous to regenerate too. You can see all of that beautiful wheat growing at her feet. There's crops there that are ready to be harvested. You know, there's a beautiful feeling of growth and wealth and patience with the Empress. All of these things I want you to hopefully have kind of sit with you today as you listen to this horoscope. There might be something that brings your mind back to 2015, possibly, when you had a moment of feeling like that in terms of your talents, your values, your skill set. Maybe there was a moment in 2015, maybe the end of the year. Could be fleeting, but there may have been something where you were like, holy smokes, I made this. I can do this. I've got the stuff to do this. I'm really proud of myself. Hopefully you can remember back to that time, Cancer rising. Now, the Sun and the Moon at 23 degrees of Leo, so that's one more week until we enter Virgo season. But at the moment of impact, they're actually forming a square, which is pressure, remember, with Uranus in your 11th house, which is where we think about community, friendship, a sense of cooperative exchange. And I like to look at this. Stick with me. So if you like to look at images to learn, then the tarot is a really great way to learn about astrology because there is correlations between each of the planets, each of the signs, everything like that. And it's all in a picture. So if you like to gaze at things and sort of learn through visual images, the tarot would be a great way to learn astrology. That is to say that modern astrologers will often sew in the significations of the planet Uranus with the Fool card. And that is to say, there is something revolutionary about both of them. There's something really innovative, and there's something really fearless about both of them too. So Uranus, the planet, has been in Taurus since 2018. So in regard to your sense of friendship, belonging, good fortune, the folks that you've been rolling with, and also the innovation that needs to happen there or has happened there since that time, this new moon is asking you to consider that. So there's something about your place in the group, your sense of belonging, and your talents, what you have to offer. So if we're going to be rolling with this sort of revolutionary, innovative feeling in this reading, cancerrising, then what I see have at the initial conversation between Uranus and the sun and the moon might be sharp. There might be something that's sort of like, hopefully it's not a redirection for you if you're onto something, but it might just be like a kind of reminder that you've been in process and you're starting a new chapter of your life. You're willing to integrate into a sense of community and belonging that maybe is a little bit different to the way that you used to operate in those spaces. It might have something to do with this new moon manifestation if we're going to be little witches and ask and make a wish and a prayer for how we consider our talents and our self-worth and our values, our money. This Uranus intervention might be like, yeah, remember that like awakening that you've been having though. Since about 2018-19, you've looked at your access to resources and you've been like, how can I innovate this? What would I really like to be doing with my time? How would I really like to be engaging with community? That's the infiltration that I feel here at this new moon Cancer. It's not so brusque, but it's definitely like, remember, that's what we're doing now. Maybe there's a temptation to sort of go back to, wishing for, more clients, more work. Of course, like by all means do so. That's really important. Also, let's continue this journey of innovation. Uranus and the Fool, the one that's unafraid, the fearless one, will be in Taurus until 2026. So you've got time as well. You don't have to feel that you've missed the boat in any way. But when it comes to considering yourself and your talents and your contribution, what you have to offer, what you have to give, what you have to share, I wouldn't limit yourself to a certain perspective. That's what I'll say, Cancer rising. Now, straight after, about 4 hours after this exact lunation, the sun and the moon will become exact at 7:38 in Leo. Great time to feel it, plant the seed. At about 7 minutes to midnight, Uranus, the Fool, is having another chat, but this time it's with Mars. And Mars has been the one that's been sort of like stoking tension in your third house of the goddess, your village, your private world. Remember, there was that sort of face-off between Mars and Saturn that was maybe a bit confronting and maybe a bit limiting as far as your longing to journey and your access to your own voice box in your environment right now, town square or otherwise, Uranus is actually having a really helpful chat with Mars. You can see I've got the tower here because it's another great visual representation of what these planets might bring into our lives, how we can, the reference of the card to remember what the energy can bring with it. Remember the glyph of Mars too, it's a shield and a spear. It's kind of quite combative. But in this way, it's kind of like, I feel that there's like a momentum that's building. And it feels like there's a conversation and a sort of a correlation that you could make between your third house, which is the house of the goddess in Hellenistic astrology, which is about divination, about private ritual, about sort of the ways in which we worship our own gods and goddesses, the ways that folks used to enact ritual in order to give thanks to their perceived notion of the gods, multiple, plural, not just one. So this is how far we're going back with the signification of the third house. In modern day, it can be to do with your village, your way of communicating. But I will not leave out the word ritual, though. There's something here that's attached to your metaphysicalness and your sense of community. So this is the bridge that we're sort of building at this new moon. It's in relationship to your talents, your self-worth, your coin, your bottom line. But it's also developing the confidence with Mars to stop limiting yourself and to realize that there's actually something really bold and fresh that you can dive into now with your knowledge of the goddess, with your knowledge of private ritual. What do you do to regulate? Who do you talk to? How do you tune in to the world around you that you reckon might be able to benefit the group? That might be able to benefit a sense of belonging in community for you. It might be something kind of like altruistic. You might want to give to a community right now that's suffering, and you've got a certain amount of skill and knowledge about healing. I'm running out of time. I've been chatting away with these readings. Which one do you want? Great. All right. 3 cards, please. And then I'm going to prepare you for the next full moon, which is a doozy, but we'll get there. One thing at a time, please. It's going to take work, and it's going to take working with someone that knows their shit, someone with a really good work ethic too, someone that can like go the distance as far as like conviction of the collaboration. It at first feels like sort of like maybe it feels too nebulous to get your hands on. It doesn't feel so tangible. It kind of feels almost like a fantasy for you, Cancer. But looky, it's like, yeah, but how do we make that happen? We bring it down to earth. We sort of make it real with our skills and our hard work. And I feel that there's also some support here. Look who it is. It's the Queen of Pentacles. There's her rabbit. There's her garden. There's her beautiful place of endless abundance and of giving and of growing and of having every darned thing that she needs. And you don't get to be a part of the royal family, as it were. You don't get to be a queen without hard work, I'll put it that way. Every queen that I know works her ass off, round the clock. Something to be proud of. So if you wanted to be a queen and not a princess, cancerrising, then it's about finding the right folks to work with. It's about finding the right kind of limits to your output too. It's really good to put boundaries on how much you want to slog away. Depends on what stage of life you're at too. But away from this sort of nebulous like fantasy of like, oh, you can see it sort of like, looks like a portal, looks kind of this ritual ceremony. Yep, not quite what I had in mind. I've got to find someone who can like do the hard slog with me. And I know that I've got this support in the background. I know that there's roots here that I laid down that will be here forever. And that's a marvelous feeling. I've got goosebumps. There you go, cancerrising. I love you lots. Do drop me a line if you're still here in the comments with me. I will be with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to discuss the bright blue full moon in Pisces. It's going to be a bit of a trip, so I'll prepare you in time for that one. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, here's an example. You can head to umaruby.com and I can draw you one up of your very own for you to have and keep and cherish, along with a Zoom reading of the chart. You can tip me at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And yes, I'll be with you in 2 weeks for that Pisces full moon. We're gonna blow it up. It's gonna be massive. I don't mean to put too much weight on it, but yeah, it's a blue moon. It's the second moon of the month. It's in Pisces. It's supercharged, close to the earth, massive. Pisces, psychedelic, amazing. I can't wait. I'll speak to you then. Love you. Bye. Hello, Scorpio rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the new moon in Leo, happening on August the 16th at 7:38 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So we're going to be proud like the lion, Scorpio rising. We're going to let our hair down, tease it up, spray it up. We're going to focus in on our 10th house, where we're most publicly perceived, our legacy, what we wish to be known for in this life. And we're going to, in the dark night of the new moon, we're going to use our instincts like the lion that we are in this moment. And we're going to plant some seeds for our next journey, our next trip around the wheel. What do we hope to see occur in our legacy, our career? What do we hope to leave behind in this life? It's a lovely one after obviously the horoscopes that we've been working with over the past month or so. It's a real kind of, it feels like a moment of clearing. It's a fresh start, and it's something that we kind of can really get excited about, I might say, Scorpio rising. So let's do that. Let's kind of, where is it? There's the Strength card. That's great signification of the sign Leo. You can see there's that beautiful gold of the lion, and there's a great kind of pride that they stand there in. Also, there's a temperance here. There's a kindness, there's a sweetness here by someone who is tending to the lion, but not with any sort of aggression or violence. They're actually satiating the lion's roar with kindness and love. So this is kind of what I feel for you at this new moon, Scorpio rising. There's something here about pride in work, pride in self, pride in the accomplishment, all eyes on you, and also, where are we going to move from here? Hopefully the day that I release these, it'll be the 13th of August if I get my schedule right. And today is the Venus Cazimi in Leo 2. And that means that Venus, the planet, the Empress, the goddess of beauty and love, is in an exact conjunction with the sun for a time. And there's a changeover, there's a handover, passing over of dark to light. Venus becomes a morning star at a certain time of the year as they pass through the sun's glow. And the last time that Venus was retrograde in Leo was in the year 2015. So there's something here about your public-facing self, about your legacy, your work, that you might be reminded of from 2015. Was there sort of a moment for you, specifically in that part of your life, where you were like, I'm onto something. I'm really digging this. I think that I'm going to do more of this. I think that this part of my public perception, my sort of social facing world, where I'm perceived and received, I'm down with this. This is really working for me. And so I wonder if there's going to be like sort of like an extra like reminder of that period of your life at this new moon in Leo, Scorpio rising, because of that sort of extra energy of Venus, the proverbial goddess, you know. That might be something nice to sort of, you know, extra bit of support in your new moon manifestation. Now, there's an extra energy that is sort of speaking to this lunation. So the sun and the moon are at 23 degrees of Leo, and they're squaring Uranus in Taurus, in your 7th house. So this is where things get complex. It's also where things get really valuable. So Uranus is one of the outer planets. We don't always feel their presence, but in times of exact configuration, there's a reminder of what they're doing and why they're doing that. So Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018/19. So they were sort of in there for a while in 2018, left, then came back full time in 2019. And they're going to be there until 2026. The energy of Uranus liberates, innovates, and sets things free. So when we think about your 7th house of relationships, near, dear relationships, Scorpio rising, there may have been some big changes for you in the way that you relate to other people over the past, let's say, 5 years, to be safe. In tarot, if you prefer to look at pictures rather than try and retain all the information, tarot is a great way to do that because you can learn the two in tandem. Modern astrologers, modern tarot readers will sometimes assign the signification of Uranus to the Fool because there's something innovative, fearless, brave, revolutionary about the Fool. They're moving into the next frontier and they don't really know where they're going, but they're not scared. They're working on instinct and they're working with it. What I'm getting at, Scorpio rising, is that there's pressure here. So what you've been learning about the way that you relate to others over the past 5 years, what has needed to stop in order for you to maintain your health, the different approach that you may have developed in terms of relationship to how you're going to engage in relationship from now on might be different to the way that it used to be. This is coming up as a reminder to you at this new moon manifestation in your public facing self. So if there's maybe like a temptation to go back to the way things used to be, or to ask for the way things used to be, or to sort of get a bit lost in the pride and the glamour and the fame and accolades of Leo, what you've learned in your relationships now is it's changed you. So that may have changed your public facing motivation too. It might not be so, not to say self-serving, but you know, Leo is definitely very high on their own supply, loving their self sick, you might say. And that's awesome. That's really great. I love self-confidence. I think we all could do with a bit more of that from time to time, to have pride in one's work, pride in one's legacy, pride in one's output. Better way to say it. The Fool has changed the way that your relationships have shown up. The dragon's head was sort of giving a bit of a power surge to that area in the last 18 months. So that's quite current for you maybe to recall, which is almost like an emphasis on Uranus's potential influence in that space for you. And so at this new moon, there's like a stern conversation between the Fool, the brand new you, the way that you're going to move forward in relationships from now on, and also what's important to you in your public domain. What do you wish to leave behind might be very different to what you thought you would. And that's something to work with. So that's the new moon. So this is kind of what might be sort of occurring, and probably what you can sort of, if you wanted to work with the sun and the moon, you can also work with Uranus too. And by that I simply mean, if you have a tarot deck, put this little baby under your pillow and ask the Fool, talk to the Fool about what you need further advice on, or perhaps encourage you to go over in your dreams. Perhaps you could write down a list of experiences that you had in relationship and in public in 2015, and then in 2019. Sometimes really nice to go back, to go forward. That's what I love about, I said it before, but like the tarot, astrology, does this, doesn't do that. Nothing is a failure, honey. You haven't failed at anything. There's a fresh perspective that you're gleaning, which is really encouraging. And as you move forward into intimate relationships, and as you press on with your journey, with your career and your public facing self, your legacy, how people perceive you too is another thing to think about in the 10th house. That might be encouraging a bit of a change too. So that's 7:38. About 4 hours later, at about 7 minutes to midnight, the Fool is actually going to have some deep, helpful chats with Mars this time. And so Mars is in Virgo, in your 11th house of friendship and community and belonging. And so there may have been, as we were saying before, there may have been some friction between your sense of community in the group and your individual self-expression. Remember, with Saturn and Mars, there may have been something quite shocking that occurred there, or a bit of a blunt force that we needed to work through. Now Mars is having a healthy chat with Uranus. So it's kind of like there's something about your relationships intimately and your sense of friendship that there's an encouraging chat that's happening here. And it's also kind of like roll with the change too. It's kind of like, this is the reality of what's going on. If you're to continue on this evolution, Scorpio rising, then in fact your community and your relationships might need a good healthy change, a reinvigoration, an innovation. You might not be able to operate the way that you used to. Perhaps this look back to 2015, to the late teens, it might be a moment of reflection to be like, yes, that was a lovely era, and now this is how I am going to spend the 20s as the person that I am now, with these invested interests, with this focus that's different to the teens. Just something to think about, Scorpio. Let's get you some cards. Oh, shall I wear that one? See if it fits. All right. All right, I want just 3 cards just to cap this one out. All right, Scorpio rising. I think that you can enjoy this one. There's some really lovely support from some beautiful hope that I feel here. So allow that sort of feeling of hope and faith to sort of wash over you as well as you enjoy this new moon. Because then we got the full moon in Pisces, but that's another story, but we're going to love it, I promise you. Yeah, okay. You can live your life however you want to, Scorpio rising. You really can. There's a really helpful message here of following your progression, of feeling and resting in that goo phase. Absolutely. Look at this. I hope that you can see that clearly. Now, I might take the time to show you. Any transition, transformation, we need the goo phase. We need the phase to just be jelly and to be nothing. Every caterpillar that turns into a butterfly turns into soup before it grows its wings. Sorry to sound like a hack, but this is your right. So if you're kind of reluctant to think too much about how you're publicly perceived at this time, if that's something that doesn't fill you with a great deal of pride, then that's okay, because this might be a sign that you're in the goo phase and that there's more development to do behind the scenes in privacy before you get out there again. What I'm really proud to see is that you've been really doing some good hard thinking, and you've been in great company with someone really knowledgeable of the mind. So that's such a hack way to say it, but like you've been working with someone that has a great sense of the inner workings of the mind, and they've been helping you in this sort of transitional goo phase. I can see that quite clearly in my tarot deck, of which I have not. Shut up, Uma. You're going to get there. I have painted the King of Swords as Shan Marshall from Cat Power. I'm sure I've told you 1,000 times. I like to think of the King of Swords of someone who has triumphed with the mind, that there's not been an easy road for them as far as the tension of the internal workings of our mentality, but they have claimed victory over their own thought forms, and perhaps they can provide folks around them with similar grace. And this is the company that I see you've been keeping, Scorpio rising, and for that I'm very proud of you. And what we're moving into is an incredible upswell of emotional integrity, emotional acceptance, emotional work. Different from the mind, right? Swords are the mind, the cups are our feeling body. So maybe at this new moon in Leo, you can afford to be in that goo phase in preparation for what's to come. Because once you start flapping those wings, honey, there'll be no stopping you. And there'll be so much love that you receive that is because you are yourself. You're the truest version of yourself at this time. And we love you for it. That's powerful. That's your reading, Scorpio rising. Well done. If you're still here with me, put a lion in the comments, won't you? That would be marvelous. I can read your birth chart at umaruby.com. Here's an example of what they look like. If you'd like a goddess asteroid reading, I'm growing in confidence to be able to offer something like that with practice and with research and with experience. I feel that I'm going to be putting together something of an asteroid goddess reading. So if that's something that you wanted now, when you're booking your reading, do mention that to me in your follow-up message, that you'd prefer me to focus on the goddess asteroids, because they do come in handy in such vibrant, clear, beautiful ways. And I intend to use them in all of my astrology from now on. But it's just first foot forward, you know? But yeah, that's just one thought. You can tip me at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby, and I'll be with you in 2 weeks to discuss this bright blue super full moon in Pisces, the second full moon in August. That's why we call it a blue moon. It's going to be hectic, so we'll prepare for that. I'll speak to you soon. Huge love, Scorpio. Take care. Hello, Pisces rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the new moon in Leo, happening on August the 16th at 7:38 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So hopefully, actually before we go anywhere, babe, I just wanted to make mention of the planet Venus. I wanted to give my thanks to that beautiful, bright goddess in the sky. I want to hold my little Empress card too and guide me through this little moment of thanks. Hopefully I'm publishing these in time on the 13th of August, but it's the day of the Venus Cazimi. Chani Nicholas, one of my favorite astrologers, has taught me a lot about the idea of the Cazimi, particularly the Venus one, and a moment of sort of like quiet reflection and gratitude for the planetary energy, the mythological creature that honors the femme. And so for that, we can all be so grateful that we get to experience this moment together. Sorry to be a sap. That's just what I wanted to say. So thank you, Venus. Now let's take a little look at this new moon in Leo. So this is the same house for you, Pisces rising. This is the 6th house of repetition, of the grind of the body. And so when we have a new moon, we have to use our instinct because there's nothing in the sky. And we also get to ask for what we hope to see have happen over the next round. So from this moment, what seed are you planting in regard to your relationship with your body, in regard to the repetition of life? And this could be your work practice, this could be your responsibilities in any capacity, but how are you going to show up for life like a proud lion from now on? It's really lovely that we get to have that that gentility from Venus from the get-go today when you're probably hopefully listening to this horoscope. And then a few days later, the new moon. It feels kind of blessed in some way. And maybe if we cast our mind back to 2015, the second half, and we cast our mind back to our relationship with repetition, with our body, with our commitment to being embodied in this life, not flying off the handle and disappearing like we used to, but being here in the here and now, 2 feet on the ground, in the body. I'm putting an emphasis on that, Pisces rising, because I think that if we take the offer, and that's not to say that we have to flagellate ourselves if we do find that we're maybe dissociating from time to time, that's okay. That's sort of part of your makeup, Pisces rising, is that might be a compulsion of yours that you need to work with for your time on this planet. To be aware of it is half the battle, as my mum said. To really name it and find the language for it is half the battle, because at least you're not going through life being irritated or being continually disappointed with yourself that you missed out or you missed the boat or you weren't present. If you can name that that's something that you do struggle with, that's half the battle, because then you can come back to earth, into the 6th house. You can be proud of your body, proud of the physical space. Also proud of your relationship with animals. I might just throw into the mix too, Pisces rising, because the 6th can speak to our familiars, our lovely animal friends that we take care of. That's one way of reading the 6th house as well. It's a stretch, but I'll show you the reference in another reading. That's part of your skill set, is your intuitive connection to beautiful creatures that can't use the same vocal language that we humans do. They feel it out and sense it in different ways. It's part of why we love you, Pisces rising. It's your connection to the animal kingdom. So plant the seeds gently, gently. What was occurring for you in your sense of self and your devotion to repetition in 2015? What were you preparing yourself to enter into? And how is that related to life now? What is your sort of sense of self-respect that's similar to 2015 that you can identify with? It doesn't have to be so exact, but it might even just be a sense of your own body, your own physical self and health and well-being. It's a nice one. So that's the moon, but there is conversations that are happening with some different planets too, so I'll talk you through them. So at 23 degrees of Leo is where we're going to have our seed planted for our body, for our devotion to repetition, for going the distance together. And there is a pressurized sort of conversation with Uranus in the 3rd house. Now, if you wanted to use the visual, the Fool card would be a great visual depiction of the planet Uranus, whatever you want to say. But Uranus is the planet that does revolutionize and does innovate. It changes the old system to bring in the new. And you can see in the Fool, this person is innovative. They are unafraid to boldly step into a brand new way of being. They've got nothing to lose, in a sense, and they've got nothing to fear as well. You can probably recognize that little white dog in the corner too. The Fool's really great with animals as well, Pisces rising. So when we think about Uranus in your third house, this is the house of the goddess, okay? This is the house of your village and local environment. I would hazard a guess that it's got a lot to do with the way that you're getting your message out there, or the way that you're receiving the message that's out there. Perhaps there's a growing relationship with your kind of more private spirituality that's been sort of growing since about 2018 or 19. There's been innovation in the way that you consider that kind of language and your part to play in that too. This is the pressurized conversation. So maybe it's almost as if there's something that to incorporate into the hard-nosed repetition of the sixth house, the grindstone, the work. I feel like Patsy now. You've got to work. You've got to make the coin. There's that, but there's also the sort of femme, empathetic, powerful rituals that we can enact in our third house that might aid some of that. You can see there's that nice balance there too, isn't there? Between both of those energies of having this sort of like forward confidence and also the gentle understanding too. So I think from Uranus entered Taurus. They were there full time from 2019 and they won't leave until 2026. So we're in process of this revolution of your third house, your relationship with your goddesses. So we've got more time to enjoy that. But as the outer planets make specific configurations with the others, that's when we talk about them. So what are your goddesses attempting to tell you at this time, Pisces rising? What can you glean from your tarot cards, from your astrology, from your witchy friends that can aid and abet your devotion in the sixth house? After the new moon, at about 7 minutes to midnight, the Fool, Uranus, the one that's unafraid, is having a great chat with Mars in Virgo in your seventh house. Now you remember all of that trouble that we went through, that blunt force trauma that happened between your sense of self and the boundary that you're hoping to set, and the aggression and agitation in the way that you relate to other people, or indeed how people relate to you, that was pretty confronting and needed some real naming of the emotion to work through, to name those boundaries. Well, Mars is still in Virgo, but now they've in fact formed a very supportive, exact trine support at 7 minutes to midnight with Uranus in Taurus. So isn't that a beautiful bridge that's opened up? Your house of the goddess, your private rituals are informing your relationships from now on. It might be the case of learning more about those that you care about in terms of what you've got in common with them. They might be respecting what you have laid down as a boundary too now, Pisces rising. There might be some sort of passion stoked here too. There might be something that's occurring in your third house, the way that you are sort of reconfiguring your life to worship the goddess. It might just be as simple as like sort of lighting a candle of an evening or lighting some incense when you remember, simple acts like that to give thanks for life is what the term ritual really means, doesn't it? If we can find at the end of the day that we're grateful for the day that was, if we can take a little tiny moment just to light some candles, maybe some incense, bring some fresh flowers into the house, give the place a vacuum. That's honoring the goddess. That's how they used to honor the goddess in the old days. I've been reading a lot about the asteroids and the different rituals of worship that the folks that were alive in classical times used to enact, and some of them were incredibly simple offerings of flowers and food and colours and scents. I'm wearing a gorgeous perfume today that was gifted to me by one of my very close friends, Julia. And that is an active ritual. That's how I have been honouring my own goddess, is by anointing my body. You might see that I made an effort for this reading. I've got my Julia Roberts dress on and my Lana Del Rey. When I put my eyeliner on like this, I'm worshipping that goddess too. Simple little tiny actions is what we're talking about in the third house, and this is what the Fool, this is what Uranus is revitalizing, revolutionizing for you. You're opening a channel that's deeper than it was before, Pisces rising. And perhaps this is going to help soothe whatever conflict there was in relationship, but also give you a sense of power as well. You know, people just describe, your witchy friend, or, witch life, or whatever it is. I don't know. I love all of that stuff. I love that people are taking their power back at this time, and they're taking the time to be grateful. They're taking the time to be present away from a screen. It's a paradox because I'm talking to you through a screen right now. I understand that. It's also a gift. That's actually an example of how technology, innovation has affected the house of the goddess too. We get to share these little moments in ways that weren't available to us before. This is a prime example of that. The trick is to put limits to screen time. There, I've said it. It's as simple as that. And I get it. I found myself not being able to sleep without playing Tetris lately, and that's weird. I haven't played Tetris for about 20 years, but it's a habit that I've formed, and habits are easy to form, easy to break. So let's do that. Tetris, of all things, can you imagine? Yeah, and we're not at the end of the road yet, Pisces. Where something looked like, it was too good to be true. There's something here that's sort of like glowing and bright, and wouldn't that be awesome? Now we're in the thick of it. Now we've got to juggle a bunch of things. We've got to keep some stuff up in the air, and it might be worth just reaching out and finding someone that you really trust their opinion and that they won't lie or mince words with you. I really feel that there's someone that you've got access to. Look, and maybe you can see them in that card too. Who does that remind you of? But they've got a direction for you. They will point you in the right direction. They're not going to coddle you with emotional fluff. They will be really direct, but they're going to give you a strategy that will aid some of this either 6th house stuff, 7th house stuff, 3rd house stuff. What I would love for you, Pisces rising, is to really reclaim a sense of autonomy in your life, that you are the master of your own domain, and that you're not at the whim or mercy of anybody else, that you can create a life of pleasure and hope and abundance for yourself off your own back, off your own work ethic. And that sometimes things that are presented to us that turn out to be red herrings, it's kind of a blessing, because it's sort of like, okay, well, that was going to be a really easy out. Didn't quite work. What's the solution? Do I need to work harder? Do I need to work smarter? Do I need to spread myself around a bit, be a bit more available in the physical space? All of these are just questions, Pisces rising, but you can see that like this is what this new moon in the 6th is. It's like commitment, repetition, you know? So we've got to be a little bit, not hard-nosed with ourselves, because that's no fun and that doesn't help. But as far as having a sense of pride, like the lion in our daily rhythm, that's what we want to find. We want to end each day having done our best, right? That's your reading, honey. I love you. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, they look like this, and you can book yourself a place at umaruby.com. I'd love to draw one up for you and read for you if I've not read for you before. If you've got an interest in the asteroid goddesses, speaking of the 3rd house, I have been developing quietly my repertoire as far as understanding and working with the 4 goddesses specifically that Demetra George has written all about. So Ceres, Pallas Athena, Vesta, and Juno. There's 4. There's a multitude of different asteroids we could talk about, but those 4 in particular prove to be quite remarkable when laid over the chart. And they do flesh out the colours, the multiplicity of our nature. Rather than working devotedly with one side of the coin, we can work with the many facets of our diamond. So if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, I haven't publicized it yet or written it fully, but maybe if you're booking yourself another birth chart reading, you can just annotate it with I'd like a goddess reading, and I'll know what you're talking about. We'll chat as well in the follow-up email. Drop me a lion if you're still here with me, please, Pisces rising. That'd be wicked. You can tip me at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And let's look forward to this. Let's use this new moon in Leo as the start of a new cycle for us as far as our devotion to oneself. Okay? I'm very proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself too. I'm going to be with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk all about the blue supermoon in Pisces. So hold on to your hats, girls. It's going to get psychedelic. I love you. Over and out.